What's up to anyone watching? My name's Avery Mathis, aspiring IT professional, cybersecurity associate, pretty much anything IT and all of the above. Today I'm going to be showcasing my GitHub page that I created where I showcase all of my projects that I've worked on at home in my own setup home lab and everything. So I plan on creating like overviews, general summaries and reviews, my opinions of the projects that I work on, and how they get me some of the skills that a lot of these employees are asking for. I have some experience in IT already. My main goal is to break into cybersecurity, and I plan on doing that through sheer hard work, and I'm trying to do it a lot different than everyone else applying to these jobs. So I've took the time, a lot of time, to create a GitHub repository, my own account and everything. And I'm posting, as I said, I'm posting all my projects, but for this video in particular, we're going to be working on the Active Directory bulk user creation project it's kind of what I titled it, with PowerShell. So the main point of this project is to basically set up your own home lab, and run Active Directory using Oracle VirtualBox to create your virtual machines. And we're going to add a bulk of users, so upwards to like 1,000 users at one time utilizing a PowerShell script. So once we create the virtual machine, it's gonna be running Active Directory domain services on the Windows Server operating system. So this also gets you, hands-on experience with Windows Server OS in case you never worked help desk or any type of admin, lower tiered admin role or anything like that. All right, so this is the GitHub that I created. I've got pretty much screenshots of, the major checkpoints of the lab. The lab took me a long time, so obviously my summary is going to be a lot shorter, but I went ahead and made a description, and I'll just read it off to you right now. This project that I set up consists of creating virtual machines with Oracle VirtualBox and building a home lab running Active Directory domain services on Windows Server. The goal of this lab is to simulate a work environment by assigning IP addresses to internal network interface cards, installing RAS and NAT network address translation on a domain controller to allow clients to access internal network and outward-facing internet as well. That's important. Setting up a DHCP server. Yep, that's important as well. We're also going to set up a DHCP server with a scope set. We're also going to set up a DHCP server with a set scope on a domain controller to maintain DNS and DHCP, Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol services, and using PowerShell scripts to create and manage a bulk of users in Active Directory. There goes the 1,000 users that I mentioned. Below is a diagram that gives you a good idea of the order of events in this lab. So I've got this diagram from where I got this lab from, and this diagram is very interesting, so I had to put it in my blog too because it pretty much lays out every single thing. And here I'll put it in full screen for you. But yeah, it pretty much lays out every single thing that you're going to do in this lab. So first off, we're going to download VirtualBox. You're going to download the Windows 10 and Server 2019 ISO, which I've also linked in my repository for this project. Then we're going to create the domain controller in Server 2019. We're going to create the 2 network interface cards as well. And once we do that, we're going to, assign IP addressing to those interface cards. This one's already going to get an IP address from like whatever home router you're using. And then we're going to assign, this IP address, make sure you get the mask, DNS, all that good stuff. Next, we're going to create the domain right here. The domain we used for this project is mydomain.com. It's not on this graph, but this chart or whatever it is, this graphical. I don't remember the word, but it's not on this picture diagram. Okay, it's not on this diagram. But what we're also going to be doing is creating an organizational unit for the admin account for this domain that we created, and we're pretty much going to be, the big dog, the head honcho of that organizational unit. Later down the line, we're also going to build an OU for the users that we're going to create with this, that's with these that PowerShell script. After that, we're going to configure routing and NAT, network address translation. On a domain controller, we're going to configure those two things on a domain controller to allow clients to access the internal network, this virtualized network right here, and also the outward facing internet as well. Next, we're going to set up a DHCP server with a set scope on the domain controller to maintain, DNS and DHCP services. So that way, when we get to the last step, which is creating our Windows 10 client, it will already get IP addressing from the dynamic host configuration protocol that we implemented on the domain controller. And I know that sounded like a mouthful. It was a mouthful to me as well, but it's all going to make sense. So once the IP addressing is created on that, well, actually before the IP addressing is given to this client right here, we're going to run a PowerShell script that's going to create 1,000 users with different names, and we're going to test to see if that script worked by logging in with one of those user accounts with that organizational unit for the users that we created. We're going to log in with this on this Windows 10 client with one of those accounts and see if it works, and ultimately try to access the outward internet and like the internal facing internet. So that's pretty much a general overview of what's going to go on and everything. Yeah, let's get right to it. Again, this video is going to be a lot shorter than the whole process. The process might take you upwards to, it took me 3 days, but that's because, I kind of split it up in sections to make it not as stressful as it needed to be. Yeah, so we're gonna go, the first thing you're gonna do is once you download your Oracle VirtualBox, there's plenty of tutorials online, on YouTube even, that teaches you, how to set up your VMs. I've already got my client VM and my domain controller pretty much running, obviously, because I completed the lab. But domain controller, the first one, you're gonna set up your virtualized hardware and everything. Make sure you give yourself enough RAM, but not too much RAM if you don't have like a super high-end PC. Mine isn't that great, to be honest, but I just gave myself 2 gigs on each of the VMs. You're gonna set up your domain controller with your server 2019 ISO. Go ahead and open that bad boy up. Okay. Obviously, you're gonna have to use the virtual keyboard to log into this joint. All right. Oh, and also this is a folder right here that I also linked in my repository files that you're going to download. This has the scripts that you're going to need to create the users. So yeah, first things first. From this point forward, I'm pretty much going to go desktop view. As you can see, I'm pretty new to OBS, so I'm trying to figure out how all the stuff works pretty much. All right. Just to let you guys see my VMs running, right? I got my domain controller here, and then I've got my client here with the Windows 10. I didn't log into it yet, but you'll see. I'm gonna log into it at some point in the video. You're gonna see. It's all gonna make sense. So from this point forward, I'm gonna go into desktop full screen mode and pretty much just show you a general overview of what pretty much happened during the lab. All right, I'll see you at the end when I showcase what it's like pinging the users. This is where you're going to create your network interface cards, and like I said earlier, you're going to need 2. So you're going to create 2 NICs. So in a second, you're going to see 2 NICs be created in both of these adapters right here, one to the internal and one to the external. So yeah, this is the first adapter. It's already NATed, and that's going to connect to our house internet. And here is the second one. It's going to be on the internal network. Hit OK. Now that the VM is configured, you're pretty much going to start it up, and I'm going to fast forward into the installations. All right, so now you're going to open up Windows Server Manager, which is something that comes with the server operating system. So you're gonna go to network under change adapter options, and you are going, okay, yeah, this is when you're gonna configure which one is which, like which one's gonna be your internal network and which one's gonna be your external one. So you're just gonna go ahead and rename them. This one's gonna be renamed to internet, which is like the outward facing internet, and then we're gonna name this one internal, you know, so we can differentiate the two network interfaces. Fast forwarding here, we have both of the NICs created on our domain controller. So pretty much the next step is we're gonna upload Active Directory. We'll install Active Directory, domain services, and we're gonna create a domain on it too. So yep, add roles and features, and add roles and features is basically where you're going to install the different utilities you want on your Windows server. So in this case, we're going to be adding Active Directory domain services. So next. Boom, boom. Active Directory domain services. Okay, next, blah, blah, blah. Install. Okay, and then this is also something you got to do. You are going to create your root domain. So you're going to say add new forest, and like I said, we're naming the domain mydomain.com. All right. Blah, blah, blah. All right. Now we're going to create the organizational unit. So once we go on to Active Directory users and computers, we're going to hit mydomain.com, and we're going to create our new organizational unit. Yep. So we got the OU. We're going to name this admins. Like I said earlier, this is our admins OU. So yeah, at this point, we've basically created an OU for our admin account. And I'm going to be the only admin in this case. And the format we're going to use is your first letter, well, A-A Mathis. So the A dash would stand for admin, and we're going to do first letter of your first initial of your first name and last name. So A-A Mathis would be in my case. So you're going to log on, right? And then the next step is we're going to be installing RAS and NAT right here, as you can see. That's the next step. So yeah, the purpose of this is basically made so when we create, like, obviously the Windows 10 client with all the users and their ability to log on to that client, they're going to be able to access the outward facing internet and the internal network. And also when they're accessing the external network, they're going to be using network address translation, you know, on behalf of the domain controller. So that's pretty much what the point of this is. All right, so you're gonna go back to select server roles, and then that's when you're gonna, you know, go to the installation, hit next again, and you're just gonna hit this thing that says remote access, and that's gonna install the RAS on the domain controller. So yeah, fast forward, boom, you installed routing, and then you're gonna, you know, hit install. It's gonna take a sec. Then after that, that's installed, we're going to install network address translation next. So once you go to your routing and remote access, you're going to see that the server's offline. You're going to right click it, and then you're going to install network address translation. And then see that right there. That's network address translation, allows internal clients to connect to the internet using one public IP address. Yep, that's the definition of NAT, literally. So once that's installed, the next thing we're going to do, now that our clients are going to be theoretically allowed to access the internal network and the outward facing network, the next thing that we are going to do is create our users, obviously. Oh no, sorry. Next, we're gonna set up DHCP. So that's another feature that we're gonna have to put on here. So we're gonna go to add roles on the domain controller. Go through this process again. Next, 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 and we're gonna go to we're gonna check DHCP server. We're gonna hit next again, and install it. Same thing, kind of rinsing and repeating just to get the services you need for this project. And then, yep, you're gonna open up your DHCP server once it's installed. So yeah, we're gonna open up our DHCP server once it's installed. And now everyone's going to basically automatically be able to get their IP addresses pretty much as soon as their computer's connected to the network. But first we got to create a scope to determine how many IP addresses we even want to give out. So this is what you're going to see in the video now. It's going to be the next step. So go to the server, new scope. So yeah, so pretty much you can name the scope whatever you want, but here we're just going to name the scope what the IP address of the the IP address that we've been working with before is, and we're going to make it from 100 to 200. So that's obviously, if you can do math, you can see how many IPs we're going to be able to give out with those two numbers. All right, so fast forward a little bit here. Once we create the scope, this pretty much just shows the duration of the scope and how long it's going to be tied up, also known as like the lease, the duration of the lease. So like let's say if you were to walk in a Starbucks, their leases aren't going to be that long versus like a company, just whatever you want, but we're going to keep it at the default 8 for this lab. Boom, boom, fast forward, right? Created the scope. After we did that, so yeah, now we can maintain DHCP and DNS. Oh, and obviously now you can see like it's not red anymore, turned green, meaning that it's all set up and ready to go. Finally, we're going to create our users. So I'm gonna fast forward. We're going to use this PowerShell script. So this is where you're going to download the file that I posted up in the description of my repository on GitHub. So once you download this PowerShell kind of master zip file, it's going to have, well, the one I post is going to have more files than this, but pretty much the only one you're going to need is this names text document, which pretty much shows you like complete like strings right here of all the names. These are like just generated names that I think the creator got from online, some website that he generated like 1,000 names or something like that. And these are all the names of the accounts we're going to be creating with that one PS1 script. PS1 is the file type for PowerShell. So this create user script right here, this is what we're going to open up in PowerShell ISE. Boom, open up ISE, run as admin. Once this opens up, you should probably be used to some of the, if you've done like a little bit of coding in maybe school or something, you're used to the GUI of these type of coding programs. All right, so yeah, so pretty much open up the PowerShell file in there, and once you open it up, you can see all the raw code. And what this code is pretty much going to do, if you haven't guessed it, is create 1,000 users. That's where the bulk of this project comes into play, and it's going to give them all of the identifiers which these variables kind of define right here. So this line right here basically reads that all the users created, their password is going to be password 1. They're all going to have the same password, which is not usually politically correct in a organizational standpoint. But from a lab standpoint, where it's just you, this is perfect. So everyone's gonna have the same password. Okay, and you can see that it's gonna get the context, the names itself from this names.txt file, which is in the same folder, same directory as the PowerShell script file. Okay, and then you've got another line right here. This is gonna create. Okay, so this is the new organizational unit, and the new, because we already created the admin organizational unit, or OU, so it's going to create one for users, and it's going to put everyone in that OU. All right, boom. And this right here is pretty much just like setting up how they want the people's usernames to be displayed, whether it's like first initial, last name, last initial, first name, you know, basically all the specifics. So if you want to get into that, you can pretty much just, I don't know, learn some scripting itself, or just like any type of coding language, and you'll pretty much understand everything I'm saying about lines 9 through 20 something. Oh, and here's when, this is when the guy got an error. And the reason for this error was because before you can run any type of PowerShell script in here, you pretty much need to specify the directory that it's going to be pulling this code from. So that's when you just go down to the code and type in what directory it is, you know, manually and all. So let me fast forward a little bit. Oh yeah, that n dot split right here with this like 1, it means that it's gonna take the first character of the of one of the names. I believe in this case it would be like the J, and that's gonna be used as obviously like the beginning of the username. So it would be J Matic or fucking D Earls or whatever. So yeah, in that case, the J would be the first initial, and it'd be like J last name, so J Matic or D Earls. For me, it's A Mathis. I can even show you my text file right here in my version. Sorry, I'm gonna have to log in again. Password 1. But yeah, I can show you my text file. See, in mine, kind of zoom in a little bit. Yeah, it's gonna be hard to see, but right here you see I've got Avery Mathis as my text file. So I actually created a user account for a client with my name. So I got a user account and an admin account. So yeah, kind of cool how you can do that. And all I did to do that was add my name to the text file. So yeah, fast forward. All right, boom. Hit run. And here is all of the users being created right here. So it's really nice. It takes a couple minutes because it's like 1,000 people. So you can see all their accounts created. Look, you can see the first initial, last name, all their users. This was the coolest part of the lab because you can literally see the power of something like PowerShell. I mean, you could go through the GUI and add all these users individually, but the scripting makes your life a lot easier. Your life's it's literally gonna be a living hell if you were to just go into the GUI and add them one by one. So yeah, now that we did that, we're going to, we're gonna see our OU. Users was created. We didn't even create that manually. We created that simply all through PowerShell. It's there. And then when you go inside of it, you're gonna see all of the users there. All of the users. Every single last one of them, which is really cool. All right, fast forward. Oh, the last thing we're gonna do is log into the Windows 10 VM, you know, the client that we created. And once we do that, we're gonna make sure everything's working right as a user, from a user standpoint. Right, so here we go. Last thing to do, we're gonna log into the Windows 10 client, try to access the outward facing internet and the internal network. If you haven't been through all this already, well, you probably haven't been through this already at this point, because you're gonna have to connect it to the domain and everything on your first setup. So, you know, go through all this stuff. Don't let them connect to a Microsoft account and all that, and just connect it to the mydomain.com that we created earlier and log in. So yeah, once you log in, it's gonna look like this. And at this point, I can pretty much just show you on my own VM. All right. So, yep. Full screen, wait up, boom. So yeah, here it is on my own VM. So once you've logged in, once you set up your own VM, Control Alt Delete, and as I showed you earlier, that user account that I created with my name, it created an account called Mathis. So all I'm going to have to do is log in with that same default password that we use for everyone, password1. And here we are. We're logged into our Windows 10 account. Boom, you can see, a completely functional, File Explorer opens up. Well, it's kind of slow, but it opens up. Okay, so I'm going to open up CMD, just open the command line interface and show you pretty much that everything's working. So look, you've got, if you type in who am I, here it is. You're connected to my domain and your name is Avery Mathis. So yeah, you're connected to my domain and your name is Mathis, or your username. Obviously, that's me. And let's see if we can ping google.com. Okay, so pinging google.com. Here we go with 32 bytes of data. It's going to take a little second, to finish. But as you can see, it's pretty much working. And yeah, let's just wait for that to officially show success. Okay, so here are the stats. Packet sent 4, received 4, lost 0, 0% loss. Round trip time. Man, this takes a long time. All right, so yeah, it completely worked. We're able to connect to the outward facing internet. We're also able to connect to the internal network, as you can see here, my domain. And if you even go to the network, let's say, it's acting really slow just because I got so many VMs running right now. But here, look, my domain connected right here, 4K right here. So yeah, that's going to do it for this lab. It was a nice lab because it really gives you an opportunity to see Active Directory from a different light if you were just kind of thrusted into a help desk position like I was, and in charge of things like password resets, group policies to some degree, and staying in line with things like HIPAA if you worked in a healthcare environment and stuff like that. But this is very interesting because it kind of gives you a little bit of knowledge on what it's like to be a system admin or junior system admin or whatever. And if you were to go on to LinkedIn and type in Active Directory, you'll see thousands of jobs by thousands of different employers that need this skill. So this is a very good skill to have. If you can do one at home, do so. You don't need a super powerful computer to do this, and it's perfect for people that are really trying to grind their way into IT, grind their way into cybersecurity, and just get those skills to show off. All right, so that's gonna do it. It's been nice. My name's Avery. I'm gonna try to edit this video out because it's getting pretty long at this point, edit any stuttering or stuff like that. But thanks for watching. Try the project down below. I've kind of laid it out step by step if you don't want to look at me. I don't know why anyone wouldn't want to look at me, but if you don't want to look at me, I've laid it out step by step down there. All the files are uploaded in the repository. And with that said, take care.